Hey guys, it's Paul here, and I'm just answering some of your questions because we've just been working through a series that we've called Ephesians. We call it The Mystery of Us. And the book of Ephesians is one of those books that once you start getting into, you're going to have all kinds of questions. And so we just want to encourage you to be thinking about those. So please send them along. But the first question I wanted to address is someone who asked, how do you reconcile the challenge of election and God's sovereignty with people who were once passionate and sincere about their faith and are now verbally rebuking God and hostile towards Christianity? This isn't just about people who are walking away from their faith. I think the question is talking about those people who are were once followers and are now completely opposed. And this is a great question. So thanks for asking it. It's a great question because I think all of us have people in our life who've had that experience where we've seen them, maybe we grew up with them, went to camp with them or something like that. And we had this kind of experience where we felt like they were real close to God. And all of a sudden they seem to be in a completely different direction. And, we believe that, this idea of, our security is kind of this second side to the same coin that we talked about on Sunday about choosing and God's election. And both of them have to do with God's sovereignty. Do we believe that God is in control of everything that happens in the world? And Philippians chapter 1, verse 6 says that we are confident that he who began a good work in you will continue it on and carry it on until the day of completion, until the day of Christ Jesus. And so what we see there in Philippians is that we believe that, once saved, always saved. And so the question is, what about people who seem to walk away? And I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, we need to know, number one, that God cares. The Bible shows us in the person of Jesus, he came across a funeral, and the Bible tells us that he wept. He cares deeply for us. He doesn't want us to be walking away. And when people do end up moving away, it's something that God cares very deeply about. Second, we need to know that, as we've described, God is sovereign. He's in control. Nothing happens outside of his goodwill or his purpose. We also know, number three, that we're not the best judges of people's character. This means that we need to be people who are humble, but also when we look at people's stories and we see them in situations that just seem to be so far outside of what we would expect, you may be thinking to yourself, boy, that person's just gone totally off the rails. But the truth is, our stories are long, and God's grace is huge, and we never know how things are going to continue to turn out. In fact, this idea that God has chosen us since before time can give us confidence when we're in situations where friends and family and loved ones have been kind of straying away and going in a different direction. Because in our minds, it's easy for us to just give up and say, you know what, they're far, it's done, it's over, there's no chance. But with God, there's always a chance. I mean, with God, there's always that possibility because he can do immeasurably more than we could ever even ask or imagine. And so the good news is that even when people seem to be walking away, we have no idea what's going on in their hearts, and we have no idea what God has for them in terms of his plan for the future. So great question. Thanks for asking it, and keep them coming, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks.